Hi, welcome to Real Talk. I'm Ganel-Lyn and Condie, and this is my co-host.
I'm Scott. Thank you for joining us here today.
Seriously? That was awesome.
Let's try that again. Go ahead,
I like
Scott. Welcome to Real Talk, our special Christmas episode. I'm Ganel-Lyn Condie.
And I am Scott, and we'd like to welcome you. This is so fun, Ganel-Lyn.
It is. We've been talking about this episode pretty much the whole year.
The whole year. When are we going to do it?
Yeah, when are we going to have, dun, 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 the spouses.
The spouses.
It's something we've been looking forward to for about a year now.
Yes.
I'm an accountant by trade. This is really comfortable for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
You're doing so good.
I know.
He really is doing great. This is Rob. The Rob that I talk about.
Yep.
This is the
I'm
Rob.
Captain
Oak tree.
America.
The oak tree.
Oak tree.
Yes.
Exactly.
How I described him. And
I'm Paige,
And this
since
is Paige.
Scott won't introduce me. I'm Paige. Nice to meet everyone.
do we want to tell a little bit about our backstory? Because we've had private askings for people that want to understand how Real Talk came to be. And we wanted our spouses to be here because they've been the support in many, many ways.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yep.
Throughout this year and through this process. And so we felt like it was a great opportunity. Do you want to share your perspective of how it all began?
Yeah, so about a year ago, I was writing a book for Real Talk, as we've talked about on the episodes. And so I was writing the Come Follow Me Through the Book of Mormon. And unbeknownst to me, while I was finishing that and getting that published, Amy, our producer, and you were talking about doing a show.
Right. I had done very low budget, bad lighting on my phone, Come Follow Me videos all last year. And so there was talk and it was pretty far down the field, so to speak. And you and I had met and had maybe a 5-minute conversation.
Kind
once.
of. Yeah, kind of. But it was more because you were talking to Paige.
Yes, exactly. So Amy came to me and suggested that maybe Real Talk be a co-host experience.
Yeah, with someone with each other. And it was like, we don't really know
Yeah.
each other. And they're like, that's great. We're going to film the first 4 episodes in 2 weeks.
Yes. And the spirit was like very quick for me to say yes. And we really didn't know each other. And I'm so grateful I said yes.
Yeah.
It was second best yes.
I hope so. No, but in all honesty, it was like, let's just see how this goes and work this out. And so it was really fascinating how it all came together. So if our beginning episodes were a little uncomfortable and awkward, it's because we didn't know each other. So that might be part of the reason why.
But I think it says something that from the beginning we had to rely on the spirit and our family support. And just, it's been so cool to see how we've become the brother and sister that we are. And I'm grateful for the journey that we've had and for the experience. But when people say, oh my gosh, you and Scott just totally get each other and have this great rhythm, I'm like, man, that's miracles.
Yeah, that's
right there.
That's what I
grace.
was going to say. I feel like they weren't awkward from the beginning because we had this meeting and it was like, that's when you guys met. And all of us sitting around the table in that meeting, it was like, okay, there's magic here. They just hit it off. They were digging into the scriptures really deep and it was so fun to watch. So I felt like you guys had a really good thing going from the beginning.
And I've always noticed that Ganel-Lyn's just been herself. That's what I've really loved. She hasn't had to put on a face. She's just Ganel-Lyn, right? She's the same when she's in front of the camera or with around the table eating whatever. So it's been really fun to watch.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm grateful that it was the Book of Mormon that we started with, because who knew back in the beginnings that we were going to have COVID and that everyone was going to be kind of scrambling to figure out how to convert to home-centered everything, right? And I'm just grateful that we were able to navigate the pandemic and create this content. And I know for our family specifically, Come Follow Me has been a blessing. It's not always gone exactly. I feel like, Rob, you've done from the beginning. You were all in on Come Follow Me. Is that true?
Yeah, I've loved it. We're always looking for opportunities to bring the kids in, get the kids involved, and bring them into the conversation. And Come Follow Me is a natural way. There's structure. It's a small amount of reading. We know exactly what we're going to talk about each week. Being able to bring your videos in and other resources that the church provides has been a wonderful experience for our family to sit around the dinner table and have a gospel conversation about what we learned that week.
I will say it gets confusing though, because we're prepping and taping and then our family is doing, and sometimes I've been commenting and I'm like, oh wait, that's next month, but we had already taped Real Talk. So sometimes I'm like, wait, on Real Talk all the time at home, and I'm sure my family's like, we know, you do a show called Real Talk. We stop bringing it up all the time.
Well, Paige, I would love to ask you this question on camera, and that is, what's been your experience kind of behind the scenes? So if Paige is, we've talked about her, but if you're not aware, she actually does have a role in the show. She's been on the set for all of our tapings because you are the stylist and the set designer for what we do. And so as far as behind the scenes, preparation and stuff like that, what's been your perspective throughout the year working with Ganel-Lyn and I?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start.
Well, you think for a second. I remember the first time I met Paige.
Okay.
Right, real quick.
Everyone says this.
They came over to our house, and they were doing.
This is a good story.
They were doing some wardrobe, something or other. And our son Cameron, who I think you've talked about several times,
Yes.
right? All 6, 7 of them. He comes bounding down the stairs, and Paige says, "Oh, let me take a look at you." And she's checking out what he's wearing. Do his socks match? It was great. It was awesome. So that was the very first time.
Well, I felt like I got to know him very quickly through
Yeah.
his clothing. It was like instantly, I was like, oh, I feel like I know him, and so that just comes out of my mouth.
It was great.
But, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I have to
Thanks,
say,
Rob.
the first time I met Cameron, I was sitting at your house. I think it might have been the first time
It
I met
was.
you
It
too,
was the
Rob.
first
Same
time we
time.
met
And
And so
Rob.
we're just sitting there talking in your living room, getting to know you. And all of a sudden, he comes down watching a basketball game,
Which-
Yes.
BYU basketball game on his phone.
Is a religion.
And then he sat right next to me, and it's the first time in a while I felt like a child. And he just sat right next to me. We watched the game
Yeah.
all together and yelled
Like
and
crowded
screamed.
over
and
the
it was
little
so
phone.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blast. So I was like, I guess we're part of the family
Yes.
now.
Immediately,
Yes, you
yeah.
absolutely are.
So it was really funny.
Yeah, so it's been fun. I feel like I've been heavily involved from the beginning, talking with our producer Amy, and just kind of the vision and where we want to go. I've been completely involved, and I think about it heavily. But it's also been fun being in Ganel-Lyn's closet once a month and talking out what she wants to be projecting and coordinating them together, and just the whole clothing and the message there has been really fun and very intimate. I would say intimate. We got to know each other really quickly, really fast. And heavily, we just taped a ton quickly, and so it was fun. We all jumped in and we were in. But it's also been fun to, obviously I've been in his closet too, picking out his outfits, and talking that out. But it's been fun to watch the process. I think we should talk about your guys' process. Rob was kind of mentioning that too, the different process you both go through. Because I see Scott, I see him wrestle and stew on things, and we talk out tons of things together just around Jesus. I feel like we're always discussing Jesus, and that kind of has always been in our relationship because he's a seminary teacher, and so it feels very natural that we're talking out the atonement and how this applies to us and our family. But what's been your process while you're prepping for Real Talk?
Well, I feel like the whole, collection of work that I'm doing right now, including Real Talk, I couldn't have done it without Rob's support. When I say he's the old oak tree, it's because it's been a stabling factor the last 6.5 years for me in speaking, in writing, when I'm on a writing deadline, which we went through that this year together on working on the journal. And then he's watched my love for this show and my wrestle, right? And he's always the stabling factor when I go too much into fear or exhaustion or anxiety, which often happens. I think he's watched the muscle that I've had to develop, in that I almost sense right at the beginning of the week when I know we're taping, I almost feel like the adversary has a special team, like they're taping Real Talk. Let's see if we can get self-doubt squeezed in. Let's see if we can get some exhaustion and critical thinking to the point where we'll shut her down. And now I recognize it. It's this little special Real Talk team, and it's almost empowered me to try harder and to build some trust. And so I'm grateful for the long hours that we're taping and we're prepping. My family, we don't see my 2 kids here, but our son doesn't live at home, but our daughter has been just steady, and she knows exactly what this work is about, and she has been so encouraging. But I'm grateful for Rob because he has from day one always encouraged me to be who I came to earth to be. And that this mission that I'm fulfilling is literally a mission, and my family sacrifices a lot for the speaking and the work that I'm doing. And when I go into self-doubt, sometimes I will send the good feedback onto him so he can throw it back in my face on the days I'm doubting. But he's always created a space where to speak and to teach boldly, maybe traditionally speaking gender roles. He has a very important, busy career himself, and there's space for both of that, our careers together. And I'm so grateful for him because, he is that steadying force when things feel too overwhelming. And so I'm so grateful for that. And that he, to sit and counsel and to discuss the scriptures with a male person that I respect and love is because for 30 years I've been doing that. I was raised by a mother that has a strong personality and a father and a grandfather that encouraged me to ask questions about the scriptures and to dig deep. And as a little kid, I wanted to be at the big people's table because I wanted to hear all these conversations about politics and religion and all of these things. And I'm grateful I have a spouse that really from, day one was like, you came to earth to be you, and I'm going to back that. And I know not all relationships are like that. And I think we had that shared why as a production team from the beginning, that we wanted to show a male-female perspective and our differences, and that it's actually a strength to have our two different perspectives. So I'm grateful.
I don't know how you feel, but you're involved more than I am in the show, right? You get to talk about the wardrobe, you're here. This is the first time on set. Never been here before, right? So
welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Because March COVID hit, so no one was coming on set,
Anywhere,
right?
Yeah.
But in many ways, I feel like this is part of my mission as well, right? My mission is to support Ganel-Lyn and you, right? I don't enjoy being in front of the camera, right? It's not my favorite thing to do. I don't enjoy talking. I mean, I'm not an introvert, right? I'm an accountant, but not an introvert. But in some ways, I maybe get a little lazy because she's so out there so much, and my job is to make sure that she can go out there. That's how I feel like my mission is to kind of help her to make sure that she's utilizing her talents and her skills and the things that she's learned to share that with the world. And whatever I can do to support her in that, that's my mission, right?
I love it.
And yes, I have a career, and I'm busy, and I have kids, and we have kids. We just have the two, right?
We just have. We're not announcing anything.
But it's been a privilege to be a part of this by supporting her, and so thank you. And watching her struggle, watching her learn, watching her study, watching her try to come up with ideas for each episode, and it's been really fun to see the little nuggets that you have dug out that I never considered before. Right, a different view of a particular verse or a particular sentence sometimes. Has been fun to watch and fun to be a part of.
I agree. I feel like I've learned so much this year, just watching them on set, and then we always watch it as a family. And there's been so many moments where I'm like, gosh, you guys have helped me just in my testimony so much, and so thanks so much. And then I had another thought though, while you were talking. I was thinking about just Satan kind of working on in his team or whatever. But one instance came to mind, and it was the day we filmed with Tim Ballard. And later, after the filming, we all kind of coordinated together, and that's including the production team and two producers. Everyone had a really rough night, and it was like, it was, I mean, I'm getting chills talking about it. It was like something was trying to stop that discussion.
Yes. And
that fueled us though. Like, feeling that is so scary, but it also fueled all of us. Okay, we need to be having these discussions. You guys need to be leading these real talk discussions and leading people to hope and to Christ. So that came to my mind.
I forgot about that.
Yes.
That was so crazy. After I'm like, man, I'm so tired. I didn't sleep very good last night. And you're like, I didn't either. And then
Tim,
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Tim's
and
like,
Tim
I
said,
almost didn't sleep at all last night.
Yeah.
And we've had a few tapings that have gone kind of that way. It's like,
Right.
man, what is
and
going
I
on?
still get stopped and talked to about that episode, and people were really impacted by that conversation with Tim and seeing that side of him that came out on set in that conversation.
Well, one of the things I wanted to go back to is how Rob talked about you, Ganel-Lyn. I just love that, first of all. I hope there, like if we could put applause in the background
Yes,
of that
yes,
and just pause
100%.
it, because there is something so resonating to me about about men in the church who have really taken maybe a different non-traditional role while also keeping their identity intact and being so supportive of what you do, because you have a big, bold, articulate, interesting, fascinating personality. And it's been so fun to watch how your marriage dynamic works, because how do those two things work together? Both very intelligent people, very driven, very interested, introspective, and then you find a way to meld that together. And it's been really beautiful to watch, because I love, I've had times where you and I have talked and you're like, it's been a rough week and certain critical comments or whatever. And you're like, yeah, but Rob gave me a blessing this week. He gave me a blessing this morning.
Yep.
And every time I hear that, I've learned to recognize that is a really key part of your connection together. It's really, really been great to watch.
Priesthood blessings from Rob is probably the biggest reason I'm still standing, right? And I feel like so blessed that I have found a brother that is married to a beautiful, strong, talented, passionate person, because I feel like Scott backs me. Like I have a bonus sibling that is the brother I always would have hoped for. And much of that is you are fiercely protective of Paige and supportive of her. Everything Rob just said, I think you could say the same, and Paige could say the same about you. And I've been a benefactor because of that, because this relationship was where it was at. You came into my life at a time where a lot of the work I do is with a lot of men. And I don't think it's a secret that as women, Paige and I have talked very personally on many occasions about navigating the work-life balance, but also the cultural aspects of the church that sometimes as women, we don't always know where to use our gifts, or are they going to be celebrated? And you have always been, Scott, so fiercely protective and supportive of me. And this year specifically, it was like exactly the timing of God to feel like, oh, there's Scott's on the planet, there's Rob's on the planet, that I hope inspires future husbands on how they will support, our son who's almost 23, has commented multiple times as he's in the dating world. He'll be so happy I'm talking about this.
He loves this. He loves it.
He loves it. That his dad has been that example. And so as he's looking for future relationships, right? And so thank you for that. And thank you for that, because you both have created space for that. And I hope that there's other marriages that have been inspired, because I didn't always have examples of that. There were very traditional ways in which you were supposed to show up if you were a wife or a husband. And what does that look like when our personalities, really, Rob and I, the gospel unites us. Like our love and our values are united. But as he said, I think we did a live video on Facebook once on a date a couple of months ago, and he was like, what are we doing? And I was like, you look into the camera, and he's like, why are we doing this? I'm like, welcome to my world, right? And so, but I'm so grateful that we can, maybe for the young single adults out there, that you can marry someone that has a different set of talents than you and sees the world differently than you. But if you have these shared values, you can grow together in one. And so I hope we definitely do not have a perfect marriage, and we have struggled. Oh,
It's close.
he said it's close. That's nice after 30 years. But yeah, so I feel like that's been one of the gifts and one of the whys from the beginning for the show, that I think we've been able to put that on film somehow, that it's shown up. So
I agree. He's a keeper.
he is a keeper. You're a keeper too.
Thanks. I
You're
have a thought on that though. What
Okay.
you were saying, it's so fun. I wish we could pause everything and be like, wait, I have thoughts. So I've been thinking about my favorite episode over the last year, and I can feel myself getting emotional about it, but it actually has to do with you, Ganel-Lyn. So as a viewer, while we were here in studio, when Brad Wilcox was here, he already is just a presence, and it was so fun to meet him and talk with him and just kind of feel of his amazing vibe and his spirit. But while we were filming, about, I would say maybe 5 minutes in, because I talked this all out with Scott after, I watched Brad see her. I told Scott after, I felt like I was watching Brad see the true Ganel-Lyn. And it was so amazing to witness as a female. It was like, I could feel it. I could feel him seeing you. And it was just so tender. And so we always talk out after shows. I'm like, gosh, I wish I could put words to what I was witnessing, but I feel like Brad really knew Ganel-Lyn, and he was so proud to show that, which was awesome.
I get asked about a lot of the people I work with over the years, and I love to talk about my relationship with Brad.
Yeah.
Because from day one, we spoke together at an event years ago. And I was so nervous because it's Brad Wilcox. He raised me, like
Totally. Yeah. We all feel that way.
Right?
Yes.
He's the foundation of my testimony,
Yes.
right? And he's so generous, and I get asked all the time about him, and I say he is exactly who you hope he is. He is as generous and as loving and supportive, but on a very personal level. I felt like I was navigating some uncharted territory. And I was nervous to even share a platform with him at the time. And afterwards, he was so bold with me. And he was so personal and just said, please don't ever stop. We need your voice. And he's never wavered from that. And he has shared a lot of French fries with me.
Yeah.
And we've had the opportunity to work together. And I was so grateful that day because it was the first time we had really seen him since he had been called into the position in the General Young Men's. And I was a little nervous because I was like, is it going to still feel like Brad? And within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And Scott said,
He was so lovely. He was so wonderful.
He was
to Scott
so-
too. I didn't
he
mean to
was.
just say it was
He
just you.
was.
It's his gift.
It is
to
his
see people,
gift.
And it was so cool to
He
see.
did it with our son. He had a class. The
Yeah,
same thing, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Cameron took a class right when he came home from his mission, and he was so special with that. But I loved that episode as well. And
What was everyone's favorite episode? What was your favorite episode?
So you've asked me that earlier before, and I can't pick a specific episode. What I love to do, I have about a half-hour commute every day to work and a half hour back. So I like to just put it on my phone and listen to it as I go. I don't have a specific episode that I can highlight because I love specific example or specific moments, right? But I don't have a specific episode that I can just say this is my favorite. I love them all. When she turns it on, when it's released every Sunday, and she turns it on in the office, and I hear the voices start, "Hi, this is Ganel-Lyn. Hi, this is Scott," right? A smile just comes to my face, and I just sit there and listen, right? And it's.
And he usually yells from the kitchen, "You guys sound great."
Yeah. So I don't know that I could highlight just one, to be honest with you. So. I love them all.
I agree.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Did you guys have a favorite?
A favorite? Well, why don't you go first? Do you have one?
I am kind of like Rob. I want to talk about how in 20 minutes or less, you guys dive deep. Scott and I call them deep pools because that's what he's been, as a teacher, he's been trained. You guys get to those deep pools, and it's like every time I felt the Spirit. Every time. It's been such a privilege. So, thank you.
Do you have a favorite?
I don't know. Do you have one that comes to mind? I have a few I'm trying to narrow down.
I have ones that feel like they changed me forever, and we just taped one that felt that way, and I don't want to get too emotional about it, but it was our last one. It was so I had to put my face back on, but I hope it's not too sacred to share, but it's taken a lot to do this year for our team behind the camera, for our families, for us personally, right? We've navigated real life, COVID, all the things. But as we were finishing, Scott was sharing his testimony of the Book of Mormon and how enabling it has been this year to study together. And I literally could hear thank you over and over. And I thought, who keeps saying thank you? And then I realized I felt it from the Spirit that our Heavenly Father was thanking us for what we had done. And there are so many Come Follow Me resources out there, right? There was almost a hesitancy to start another Come Follow Me resource a year ago because we already know there are podcasts and blogs and amazing. We have fellow co-hosts that we admire and appreciate so much. We finally decided the analogy was that on every corner there's a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Wendy's, and a Carl's Jr. And so there was room for a different perspective. And so we've really tried to do as what Paige just said, dive deep in 20 minutes and keep it very real. Mm-hmm. And on a really sacred level, it felt like a culmination, that last episode, when I felt our Heavenly Father just thanking us. And I just decided in that moment that all the comparisons, all the inadequacies, all the mistakes, all the, our poor camera guy, how many takes we had to take just today. I don't know what happened. We've stored it all up for the last day, right? That it's been worth it. Our producer and how she has really just fought for this show, but that our Heavenly Father was grateful that we would talk about his book this year, and that we would talk about it as authentically as we could. And we've really tried to do that. And, whatever that means, but I think selfishly, the episode you surprised me and told me how my name, what it means. I think Paige said later, and it's going to make me emotional too, which is no shock, but she just said in that moment, I don't know if you remember saying this, like that was the episode, that was what we have been waiting for. Like we wanted to show the world that, and the love and connection that Scott and I share, and the support. And it was just such a tender gift, and it feels like a funny thing to say.
I remember when you came home after that. And
I was like,
you wanted to keep talking about that. Yeah.
Scott surprised me, and it was such a tender thing. And so I'm just grateful because I needed a new sister and brother, and I'm so grateful that this show was the vehicle for that.
I could tell during that show that you were doing everything in your power to not weep. I could tell you were like, hold it together.
Yes, and my
that
parents, on a side note, are huge Real Talk fans. No shock, right? But they personally were just like, my dad, I think, even commented on social media.
Yeah.
He was like, thank you, because they've gotten grief for naming me that.
Yeah.
This whole life of having that name has been not always easy. So
that was really tender.
It was a tender one.
Did you have a fave?
Man, I was just going through, I have so many of them that I'll just give my personal favorite that made the biggest impact on me, and that was when we talked about the barges in Ether 6, and about how, for me personally, reading Ether 6 was like recapping 2020, being buried in the depths of the ocean, in like a place where you feel like you can't breathe, you can't steer, and you have no idea where you're going. And something about just feeling like the Savior wrapping his arms around like a barge that's tight like unto a dish. For me personally, that meant everything to me. That episode was God speaking to me like, I see you, I know you, it'll be okay. Even though you can't see it, I can see it. And so for me personally, that was the episode that I needed, maybe more than any of the others. But I will say, finding out the meaning of your name made me really happy. But I will say this too, Ganel-Lyn, and you know this because of a lot of people you've worked with and friends you have. There is something to me about connecting with where children of God connect with each other on a level that is more than this world, that makes relationships sacred. I didn't realize that till my mission, but people you teach and companions you have, that was the first place I've experienced it. And I have sought that out my entire life. I didn't realize it, but that's what I love so much about this, is it's just, why can't we just get together and have conversations that mean something, that are, and I'm not saying we have to always talk about that, but that just means something, that's elevating, that you walk away from and you're like, gosh, that's exactly what my soul and my spirit needed. And although even when we tape, some days we've taped 5 episodes, I think it's the most we've done in a day, which is like a marathon, but I leave exhausted but so fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so the value of the relationship to me means everything.
And just so our viewers understand, is we prep separate, and then we pre-prep together, and then we tape together.
But really little.
Yeah,
Your
not very much.
pre-prep together is, an
Right.
hour and a half.
Compared
It's
to our study before.
Right, compared to our individual study,
No,
right.
it's kind of amazing what
Yes,
you guys do,
yes.
and you come together, and it's so beautifully orchestrated when very little communication.
Well, and we used to, now we do a shared doc online, so we can kind of sometimes see what each other's prepping. But it's interesting to see that sometimes we're right in the same place, or sometimes we're totally different. And I love, as a family this year specifically, I feel like there's been so many opportunities for us to feel distracted and discouraged. And I felt like from day one, episode 1, Scott was like, my why is that I'm worth saving. And we've tried to repeat that why over and over. And I feel like I'm just grateful. I've said it to you publicly, Scott, that I'm grateful you haven't hidden your struggles and your vulnerability, and that you, as a man, you have led out with that and not set it aside, because I think it's been such a service in the world to put a very stylish, intelligent
Well worded.
perspective on mental health issues. Did you like how I did that?
Well, it's funny too because a lot of people, they're like, you don't really have depression.
Right.
I'm like, oh, trust me, I
He
do.
gets this comment all the
Do you want to
time.
go talk to my wife?
Right.
No,
Like,
he gets
she'll
this
tell
comment
you.
all the time. You don't look like someone with depression.
Right.
And we're like, what does that? That's the evil of depression.
Right.
That's the hard side of depression, that you have no idea who's dealing with it.
And Rob probably could say the same of the comments he gets and chronic illness and
Yeah, I not specifically to talk about that, but to talk about when you're in your low points, when you're in your low points too, and that negative comment comes in, right? It's really it's been a struggle for me to watch how that impacts, right, her as a person and individually as a person. See, I told you I'm not very good at this, right? Right? I'll just spew forth, right?
You're doing
It's
great.
all good. So. As I watch her and a negative comment comes in about why did you say that stupid thing, or that was dumb to say, or your outfit was terrible, sorry, right?
it's
Who
not
said that?
But
I'm gonna
I
go
know.
after him.
it's the person in the outfit, not the
It's
outfit.
interesting how those moments will come when the anxiety is already high or the depression is already low. And even though there's 10,000 positive comments, how hard that one comment will be. And so it's been good for me to see that in the way that I interact with others, right? I have to be very careful making sure that I'm trying to uplift and bring people up, and because I never know. To look at you, I'd never say, "Oh, he struggles with depression," or to look at Ganel-Lyn, she struggles with anxiety. So, you just never, you don't see that on the outside. So you have to be very careful about how you impact others with your words and what you say and how you treat them, because you just never really know the difficult situations people are having in their lives. Luckily, we have the Savior and the atonement and the hope that brings in our lives, and I rely on that every day, and I know you rely on that every day, and this Christmas season, especially as we remember Him and His birth, it's just a wonderful thing to know that, in spite of anxiety, in spite of depression, in spite of our mistakes, in spite of our sins and the things that we've had in the past, there's that hope of the atonement, and your sharing this every week has helped me remember that on a daily and weekly basis. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
So what are
Jeez.
your Christmas traditions before we say Merry Christmas and goodbye to 2020?
We have a really fun one. Should we share my favorite?
This is your favorite.
It's my-
I've been drug along with this one.
Listen, and Scott gave me a heads up about this, and I was like, I already loved Paige.
Yeah.
You
Now-
don't even know what I'm going to say, do
No.
you?
Oh, I did. I told her.
Oh,
Paige and I
okay.
preached the gospel. We preached in different ways. I'm much more word focused. She's much more action
Focus.
Thankfully.
When he told me this, Paige, I was like, oh, I love her. I love her now 10,000 times
But it
more.
didn't surprise you though, did
No,
it?
it
It's
did
not that
not.
big of a deal.
It is.
So
It
it's not.
is.
So I, for years now, I don't even know how many years, I love it. I look
10
forward to
years?
it. We wake up Christmas morning and we go and deliver presents to everyone who's working that we can find. So we drive around and find the gas station people and the Starbucks. We've gone to Starbucks almost every year. The firemen and women that are at the stations, and we march our butts in there, and we are like, we are here to give presents because we love you and when we're happy you're alive. So
I
it's
love
fun.
that.
Sorry,
That's
you
awesome.
have to work on Christmas, and
Yes.
here you go.
Yeah.
It's been really
It's
great.
so
My
fun.
kids
Scott's
love
always
it.
like, "Are you sure we want to go in there?"
It's my
Like, "Yes, let's
anxiety.
go."
It's not that I don't want to. My
It's your
anxiety
anxiety.
kicks in,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I can't talk to people.
But I
It's
have
really
to share
funny.
one special tender moment. We were living in Florida at the time, and we went to Starbucks, and then we went to a gas station. And while we were walking out of the gas station, I saw a trucker kind of far away, and he was working on his truck, and he had a big semi. And I ran over to him and I gave him a present, and his face, it was so tender. It was like he needed to be seen. It didn't matter about what I handed him. He just was like, someone saw me today, and it was so tender.
And that is your secret power. You are so good at seeing people. I will say that absolutely. And so God knew exactly where Paige had to be that day, right?
Absolutely. I've seen stuff like that happen. I can't tell you how many times. In fact, one day, I'll just tell this story really quick. When we were dating, I went to her work, and I think we had just gone to lunch. We just got in the elevator to go up to the second or third floor, wherever she worked. And a girl got in that, I don't even know if you knew her. And she just had this Paige way. She looked her right in the eye and said, "Oh my gosh, hi, how are you?" And I just watched this girl think, I saw that. Like, she was just like, someone just noticed me today, and I have no idea why or whatever, but man, I was like, this is the kind of person I want in my life forever.
I love
this is the
that.
kind of girl that I need in my life forever, because I need that. And so I've watched her do that ever since the beginning of our dating and everything else.
Enough about me. What about you guys? What's the
I just
tradition?
said I just said I love that, and I love that is the phrase I've used all year, and I can't believe I just squeezed another. I love
we
that.
need a new one for
I
21.
know. I've tried to. I did one whole episode where I tried not to say it, and it felt like I was sitting on my hands because I also talk with my hands the whole time. One of the traditions, we used to do some big
Homeless
coat
shelters,
drive,
blankets.
yeah, diaper drives, and I think with COVID, but last year we did for the first time, and we're doing it again this year, is our Christmas jar that we've just been collecting coins and money.
And dollars.
And I just counted it today to see where we're at. We need to do a little push to make sure it gets up there a little bit more. But last year it was this woman that had no children, and I love her. She's my favorite clerk at the Walmart, and I knew that she worked long extra hours just to survive, and I always would go in her line because I just loved seeing her. And I just surprised her, and she got off her shift, and she was just like, what are you doing?
Aww.
And come to find out, her car had broken down that week. Her brother's had, and she had paid for his car to be fixed. And so I just prayed all year this year that whoever needs it, I feel like we need multiple jars just because it's been an intense year for so many people.
Yeah.
But
Can we Venmo your jar?
yes.
I'll throw some money.
Yes.
Venmo.
Yeah. We even posted on our neighborhood page last year on our Facebook group, and it was so sweet because kids that had been collecting just all their change, we had filled the whole jar, and it was over a couple of $100 by the time we stuffed it all in there. But I know that for us and our family, and I've been really open about it on Real Talk, that we've gone through some really rough years where, I think just a few years ago, right, we were unemployed again, and we were the family.
I was going to say, next time we're on, we should talk about all the amazing things people have done for our families.
Yeah.
Because we've been that before.
We've been
Yeah.
that family.
We were the family that I was like, wait, they're bringing the box to our house? And to watch my kids who were older, just like, we don't need anything. Why are you doing this? And
And just money stuffed through the door. And I still, to this day, have no idea who it was, right? But it's exactly what we needed to
Yeah.
make the mortgage payment.
Yep. Yeah.
That is amazing. I cannot remember the time we opened up our
I need
scriptures.
tissues, you guys.
I have no
I'm
idea.
so
We opened our scriptures one night to read, and I won't say, but a lot of money fell out, and we're like,
We have
who's
no
been in
idea
our
where it
house?
came from.
And it's, I mean, it paid it. We used all of it for our kids for Christmas, and we would not have been able to do that.
And I will
That's
say,
amazing.
just my love for my husband grew during those times of unemployment. And I know there are a lot of, I can feel right now, watching right now, that are feeling like they failed. They can't provide for their families. And I think at a core level, as much as we love that we have husbands that support non-traditional roles or whatever, there's an innate need that I know Rob has had to provide for his family. And those that are struggling this year, I grew in such admiration and love as I watched Rob navigate unemployment. And I think the most powerful he felt to me was when we're getting a food order and the missionaries that are taking him through are the parents of the boss that just fired him.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he came home.
Wow.
If you've ever received a food order, it's kind of like you come in and they just pile all, which is such a gift and a blessing, but it's not like you can just run to the Bishop Storehouse a couple times a week and pick up another, loaf of bread and milk. And so it was a big undertaking to go, to walk with the missionaries, to receive all of that food, which we were so grateful for. And he would come home and help unload it. And I remember that day he said, guess who the missionaries were? And I looked at his face thinking, this is going to be the low point for him. And his humility was just like, they were so kind. And I just thought,
They had no idea who I was.
right, but we knew who they,
Yes.
yeah, and he knew, and right, he was struggling, and I just thought, if you were to put, a page in a book of how to be a powerful provider for your family, it's not how do you humbly go and receive food from the storehouse and not, you know, he didn't come home and scream and yell. He was humble and he was grateful. And so I think at this time, I think of, you know, the nativity in front of us, right? That the Savior came in such humble circumstances to parents that were humble, that were not, you know, the royalty that he actually was. And I've seen that in my spouse, and I'm so grateful for a Savior that teaches us that humility is a strength.
On that note, we want you to know that you are worth saving. That's what I took away from this year. You're worth saving and you're valuable. And we're so grateful you guys are doing this show. You guys are awesome.
We are grateful, yeah.
I guess we'll do it again next year.
Well, we have a journal. We're committed.
Yes.
That's right.
We're excited.
And a
DNC, right? DNC, where we get to unpack some complicated things and hopefully bring the real perspective. Thank you, Paige and Rob, for supporting and cheering and steadying the ship when it was like under the water and above the water.
Well, I kind of feel like if I can do this, I can do anything. Right? Like if I can sit here and be on camera, there's nothing I can't accomplish.
You're feeling it.
I love that.
Well, I hope this special episode with our loves has been a gift for you, and that like every week we try to bring the real to Real Talk, and the spirit of this season. For many, it feels different this year, right? It looks different this year. And Merry Christmas, Sorensen family.
Thank you.
So grateful to know you and love you both. So
Same, right back at you. Merry Christmas to everyone who's watching and listening.
And I guess we'll see you next week with the Doctrine and Covenants.
yes,
So thank you again.
2021, right?
Yeah.